Namaskaram, one and all. So, we are in the third episode of Art and Artist, presented by Sri Ranga Academy of Fine Arts. This is an initiative to preserve the history of art and artist. I've already mentioned a couple of times about this initiative. So, we know in the current generation, we have a lot of um, materials or a lot of options to document the details about the art or artist. But in those days, they did not had enough opportunities. So that's why we were not able to get details of a lot of artists who lived and served to the field of art. So this initiative is tried to gather those details and present to all of you, and it will also be like material which will be preserved for the future generations as well, because it is very difficult nowadays itself. It's become very difficult to get the details of those previous artists, and if we are not start preserving this, and it's going to be a bigger loss to the field of art. That's why we are starting this initiative, and we're really happy and proud that we are doing this right now. Okay, so now we had two different artists we looked at in the last two episodes. We started with Thurayu Sri Rajgopala Sharma, so who was the well-known vocalist and did a lot of contribution to the field of art. And then we also did look at Musri Subramania Iyer, so how he did contribute to the field of art. Today, we're going to look at the great Karur Iyers. They were also known as Garbhaburi Vasa, right? So, and the picture you see here is about Karur Chinnaswamy Iyer. Unfortunately, the other um, the brothers of Chinnaswamy Iyer's photos were not available, so that's why I had to use this photo. Okay, so these guys, there were four guys who were together were composers, like how we were saying Tanjore Quartet. So we can call them as Karur Quartet. Karur Dakshinamurti, who lived from 1860 to 1887. He lived for only very short period. And then we had Karur Krishna Iyer, who lived from 1861 to 1901. Then the famous Karur Chinnaswamy Iyer was living in from 1888 to 1967. And then Karur Dakshinamurti Shastri, we didn't know the period when he lived. I think it'll be around the similar period where Chinnaswamy Iyer or Krishna Iyer were lived, right? The first three of these, right, the Dakshinamurti, Krishna Iyer, and Chinnaswamy Iyer were the brothers, and whereas the last one, the Karur Dakshinamurti Shastri, um, is known as cousin of these three, right? And it is also told that like in some of the blogs that Krishnamurti Shastri, sorry, Dakshinamurti Shastri was the lyricist, and he was also a teacher in the high school of Karur. Okay, so now let's look at how these guys were contributed to the field of art, right? Karur Dakshinamurti was called um, actually the Bedda Devudu, and Karur Krishna Iyer is called Chinna Devudu. Okay, so their parents, Sri Narasa Iyer is the father of the first three, right? And then Agilandammal was the mother. As we saw in the previous slide, Karur um, Dakshinamurti, right? So he lived for only a short period of time. And these guys were learning, mainly the first two, the Betta Devudu and the Chinna Devudu, was learning from Nemam Subramanya Iyer, who believed to be, or I think he is a direct disciple of Saint Tyagaraja. So then that means these guys are Tyagaraja Sishya Parampara, right? And again, Chinnaswamy Iyer was trained by Chinna Devudu. Basically, Chinna Devudu, who trained his brother Chinnaswamy Iyer, right? And these guys were also from the family of violinist, you can call, right? So these guys, they're like very well trained in vocal as well as violin, and they were very famous in playing violin for many of them legends. We'll look at that in a while. And because these guys were from the Tyagaraja Shishya Parambara, so they were also composing lots of songs, right? So we didn't have a lot of them available today. I think we have few of them, and we'll look at what are those. But if you look at it, their compositions were similar to Tyagaraja's compositions because they were following Tyagaraja's tradition, right? They were also called Garbhaguri composers. Garbhaguri is basically for Karur. The Sanskrit name is Garbhaguri, so that's why they called Garbhaguri composers. And the sources says mostly the Sahityas were written by Krishnamurti Sastri, the fourth one in the quartet, and the music were set by Devudu Iyers, meaning like the Veda Devudu and Chinna Devudu, right? And mainly they use the mudra Garbhaburi or Garbhaburi Vasa or Garbhaburi Srinivasa and things like that. And so you will see a mudra called Garbhaburi in their compositions. And it was also told that Music Academy released a book about the compositions of these composers. And I'm sure, like all of us know about this a Sri Ragavarnam set in Aditalam called Samininne. I think we have a lot of people sung, and like we have listened and from many of the vocalists, and we have definitely it's been part of many of the concerts, right? And there was another composition called Naraman Chakkaru in Sankrabaranam, also from these composers. And there were few other compositions from these composers. Um, Maybe I have to look at in the next episodes to see if we can get a bit more details around these compositions. Definitely will do so. So we have a Brova Samayamide Ramayya in Gauri Manohari, Yadukula Tilaka in Chakravakam, and Saramaina in Behag, and then in Koniyadi Tarama, there's another composition, and Kamalampa was another composition. I don't have the raga details for them. And then Rama Rama Ravikula Soma in Bangala. And it was also told that um, these composers were also composed notes swaras like Muthuswami Dikshidhar, right? So those were Muthuswami Dikshidhar's notes for us were very famous, and looks like these composers also had a notes for us. And unfortunately, we don't have those available. As at least I have tried to explore a lot in internet to find those, and I couldn't find. But if you have any of you have these available, please do let me know. We can definitely make it available for people to listen in. Okay. And as I was mentioning, so these guys were vocalist as well as the violinist, and I'm sure they were the bigger or the famous violinist in those days. So Chinna Devudu and Beda Devudu, they were playing the violin duet for some time, and obviously due to Beda Devudu left this world early, so then Chinna Devudu trained Chinnaswamy Iyer, and they both started playing in a lot of concerts as a duet. And they were also had a solo concerts. They also had a many accompanied many artists. So the picture you see here is one of the concert which was happened in Trichy, where Chinnaswamy Iyer was playing. Okay, so and if you look at it, the sources did not have much details more than what we had looked at about Pedda Devudu and Chinna Devudu, even Dakshinamurti Shastri for that matter. But then we were able to get some more details about Karur Chinnaswamy Iyer. Okay, let's look at what are those. So he was from the family of violinists, meaning like, as I said, so the whole family was having a lot of all the brothers were playing violin, and it was also told that like his father also was a violinist, right? And Karur Chinnaswamy Iyer was playing in many of the solo concerts, as well as he was accompanying a lot of the legends those days. And not only in India, he was also traveling to abroad to accompany the vocalists, right? And he believed to be traveled in to Malaya, Burma, and Ceylon. So if you look at that, this coincides with kind of a Musri Subramaniam Iyer, right? And I think Karur Chinnaswamy Iyer also accompanied his student Musri Subramaniam Iyer, right? Okay, so let's look at some of the details about his Shishya Parambara. But I think before that, it will be really good to listen into the great Varnam composed by these famous quartets. Let's listen in to their Varnam. And I think I was able to pull out some of the famous singer who was singing this one. So let's listen in.
sari ma pa ni sari ma pa ni ga ni sa ni sari ma pa ni sa ni sari ma pa ni ga ma go ni sundara nal ne lu go ni ma ri ga ni sa ni pa ma pa ni sa ni ga ni sa ni ga ni sa ni sa ni ma ri ga ni sa ni ga ni sa ni sa ni ma pa ni pa ni sa ni sa ni pa ni ma ma ri ma pa ni ma ma ri ga ni sa ni ma pa ni sa ni sa ni ga ni sa ni sa ni ma ri ga ni sa ni ga ni sa ni sa ni ma pa ni sa ni sa ni pa ni ma ma ri ma pa ni pani ma pari gari ri gari sa pani ma pari gari ri gari sa ni sa ri gari sa ni ma pani ma pari gari ri gari sa ni sa ri gari sa ni ma pani sa ri gari ri gari ri sa ni pani sa ri ri ma ma ri gari sa ni sa ri ma pani ga ma pa ri gari ri gari sa ni sa ri gari sa ri ma pani sa ri gari ri gari ri sa ni pani sa ri ri ma ma ri gari sa ni sa ri ma pani ga ma go ni sundara nal ne lu go Sari mari ri ma bani sani bani ma mari ga ri sani sa ni bani ni sani mari ri ma bani sani ga ni sani bani ma bani ri ma sari mani sani ma bani sani ga ri sani ni sani bani ma bani ri ma sari mani sani ma bani sani ga ri sani ni bani ma bani ma bani ga ri sani ni
Great. So we have listened to the great composition. Okay, so let's look at some of the Shishya Parambaras of these quartets. Mainly, I think even though all the four of them were teaching, but I think there were a lot of Shishya Parampara for Karur Chinnaswamy Iyer. So we have Musri Subramaniam Iyer. We have seen in the previous week about him, and we also mentioned about he was learning from Karur Chinnaswamy Iyer. And we have G.N. Balasubramaniam, the great GNB. And actually, many of the sources might say that GNB was learning on by Kelvin Yarnam. But I think what happened was Karur Chinnaswamy Iyer was staying next to GNB's house. Basically, they were neighbors. So that way, GNB was learning from him, Karur Chinnaswamy Iyer as well a lot. And then we had KS Papa Venkatramaya, who was also learning from him. And then we have Varahur Muthuswamy Iyer, and then K. Kuppaswamy. And we also have Madurai Sri Subramanya Iyer learned from Krishnaswamy Iyer. And then we have Karur Srikantaya. Again, like he was learning from these guys. And then we have TK Murthy, who was also learning from him. And you might be wondering why I left Pattu Rajagopalan. So Rajagopalan was not directly learning from Karur Chinnaswamy Iyer. He was learning from P. Kuppaswamy, who is a disciple of Karur Chinnaswamy Iyer. So that way, if you look at it, so we know about Musri, Subramaniam Iyer, and GNB, and many of these great Vidwans, right? So all of them were from Chinnaswamy Iyer, the learn from Chinnaswamy Iyer. So in a way, they were all like Chinnaswamy Iyer Bani, you can say. Even though later they had their own Banis formed, but it's all originated from the Karur brothers, right? And even though the other three of them honors about other three of them were not available, we have Karu Chinnaswamy Iyers, were the honors details were available. So 1905, Mysore Maharaja honored him for his great contribution to the field of art. And um, and I think the Madras Music Academy was also honored him in 1950, the Sangeeta Kalanidhi Award. So, people, you might be wondering, because when we saw last time, Musri Subramaniam Iyer, he got well before Karur Chinnaswamy Iyer, right? So, looks like in those days, the vocalists had a lot of preference or a lot of familiarity, so that people most of the vocalists got the awards faster. And but it, needless to say, even these violinist, vionikas, and the mridangist, flutist also got Sangeeta Kalanidhi. You can see them in the Music Academy's website. So it's great to see that, so 1950, he got a Sangeeta Kalanidhi. And also, Sangeet Natak Academy awarded him as well. So, Sangeet Natak Academy, we can see in the next slide. So, Sangeet Natak, this is a quick screenshot from Sangeet Natak Academy's website. So, they've honored him an award, and then they've given him a short description about Karur Chinnaswamy Iyer. And um, and he also was given a title of Ganar Nava. And you know for his attractive and remarkable style, um, Kirtanacharya C.R. Srinivas Iyengar was complimenting him for his style. So it was really great to see these honors for Karur Chinnaswamy Iyer, right? Okay, so those were the details I had for today for you guys. Mostly, I pulled out from different sources from the web, and I also got the Varnam, which you guys were listening in from YouTube. So I do not hold the copyright for all of these content. I'm trying to collate and then trying to provide the details to you guys in a one place, or in one video, so that it will be useful for whoever wanted to know about these composers or musicians, right? So we had a great time in getting to know about Karur Iyers. So even though they were different names were there, they were called royal quartet composers, you can say. And Chinnaswamy Iyer was one of the well-known, and he has uh, like you know taught to lot of sishyas, and they created lots and lots of sishyas. So you can see how the Guru Shishya Parambara is evolved. So we can definitely plot a bigger tree from from Tyagaraja till today's world musicians, right? So he's either from Chinnaswamy Iyer or Musri Subramaniam Iyer, GNB, and various other artists. Great. Cool. I think so. This is really interesting, and I think we will come up with another artist in the upcoming week. And in the meantime, as I used to say every week or every episode, so it is not possible to like have these details either blogged or vlogged, right? Or creating a video by just one person, right? So I can do every week one, and I'm looking for volunteers who can contribute more. So if you have any of the artists from your area which you wanted to talk about, please do let me know. So you can comment below so that we will get in touch with you, and then we will schedule your sessions accordingly. Great. Thank you. And you all have a good time and stay safe. And we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you again.